everyone, it's Abby with the Bead Place and beadplace.net, and today I'm going to be showing you how to make a really fun and easy pair of bead woven dagger earrings. So these are a really great beginner bead weaving project because it's just a simple right angle weave variation. And then we also kind of are dressing them up a little bit with some drop chain to make them a little bit fancier. So let's get started. The materials that we'll be using today are 2 beading needles. You can use whatever kind of needles you'd like. These are big eyes, just make sure it'll fit through size 11 seed beads. We also have 8-pound fire line, standard size daggers, 4mm fire polish ovals. Then we'll be using size 11 seed beads. These are rocailles or true seed shape. We also have 4mm bicone Swarovski crystals. We're going to be using 3mm tierracast hex beads. And then we'll be using some decorative drop chain. You can use any chain that you'd like. I think this drop chain just dresses it up a bit. So we have some jump rings and earring findings and chain nose pliers and a cutter. As always, all the materials that we're using today can be found at www.beadplace.net. You can find a kit linked below. The first thing that we're going to do is cut about 1 yard of our fire line. We're going to string the needle about 1/3 of the way down on one end, and we're also going to use the other needle to string about 1/3 of the way down on the other end. The first thing that I'm going to do is hold one of my needles in one hand and one in the other. On my right needle, I'm going to string one of the 4mm fire polish beads and bring it down to the very middle of my work. So it's right in the middle of my thread. Now I'm going to take my left needle, and on it I'll string one of the size 11 seed beads, one dagger bead, and then another size 11 seed bead. So you can bring those slightly past the needle if you'd like. Bring them down to the fire polish bead in the middle if you want. And then on the right needle, we're going to string 2 of those fire polish beads. Now what I'm going to do is bring those slightly past the needle, and I'm going to take my left needle and bring it through the last fire polish bead you added in the opposite direction using your left needle, so from left to right. So our needles are coming out in opposite directions, and bring that bead down to the beads that you've already strung onto your work. So we should have a little square of beads with fire polish being 3 of the sides, and then a dagger and 2 seed beads being another one of the sides. So now I'll be separating my threads back out, and with the bottom thread, or my left thread, the one that's kind of pointing with the dagger, I'm going to string a size 11 seed bead, a dagger, and then another size 11 seed bead, just like we did before. And so we can bring those past the needle or down to your work. And then we're going to take the right needle and again string 2 fire polish beads. So bring them past the needle, and we're going to be taking the left needle through the last fire polish bead added from left to right. So our needles are coming out in opposite directions. So pull your work tight, pull those beads down to meet the other beads we added in the last step. And now we've built another square off of the square that we've built before. So now we'll be taking the bottom thread, the left thread, and again we'll be stringing 1 seed bead, 1 dagger, and 1 seed bead. Bring them down to your work and get 2 fire polish beads on your right needle, and take the left needle through the last bead added from left to right so that your needles are coming out of the bead in opposite directions. String those beads down to your work by pulling the tail ends of the thread so that it tightens your work. And you can see we're essentially just building squares off of the last square that we added. So we're going to continue on in this way by adding a seed bead, a dagger, a seed bead, 2 fire polish beads on the other side, bring the left needle through the last bead added on the right needle, and tighten your work. So we'll just continue on like this until we have 5 dagger beads hanging from the bottom. So now we'll be taking the thread coming out of the top of your work, and we'll be picking up one size 11 seed bead and taking the needle through the top fire polish bead in the first square from right to left. So pull that tight and that seed bead fills in the top corner. We'll pick up another size 11 seed bead and we are going to string it right in that gap there between the first and second top fire polish beads and fill in that little gap with the seed bead. So as we work, you'll need to kind of tighten the other thread in order to keep the tension tight. So just pick up size 11 seed beads and add them into the empty spaces all the way across the top of your earring. And then what we're going to do when we get to the very end is we'll pick up another size 11 seed bead and you'll go down the side of the earring through the side fire polish bead, and that will fill in the other corner. Then we will take the needle through the seed bead that's already there on the bottom corner so that our thread is right between that seed bead and the dagger. Then we'll take the other thread, the one that we have just left hanging, and we'll take it down the other seed bead so that our threads are coming out of the same spot on either side. So next what we're going to do is take one of the needles and on it thread a hex bead, a 4mm bicone, and a hex bead. So making sure that the thread is coming out of a seed bead right next to a dagger bead, we are going to go into the seed bead that's diagonally across from that seed bead where our thread is coming out. So the seed bead on the top row between the first two fire polish beads. So put your needle through it and pull your work tight. So make sure you're laying those crystals directly on top of that square. So next we'll be turning 90 degrees and taking the needle down through the next fire polish bead. So it's the one that kind of makes up the side wall of the first square we've made. And now we'll turn 90 degrees and take the needle from right to left through that next seed bead there, so the right of your second dagger. So take the needle through that seed bead and then pull your work tight. So now we'll pick up another hex bead, a crystal, and another hex bead. And we're going to be doing the same thing. So coming from the seed bead, we're going to go diagonally across to the top seed bead, the one right between the next two fire polish beads. So bring your needle through it, and we're going to be laying those crystal and hex beads directly across that second square that we've just made. Now again, we'll need to pull the other thread to tighten our work as we go, and that'll just make things a little bit neater and easier. So next we're going to go 90 degrees down the fire polish bead and pull your needle all the way through to get rid of all of the thread, and travel through the next seed bead right next to that third dagger. So from right to left. So continue working in this way, laying the crystals and hex beads across the squares until you've filled in all of the squares. So go through that top corner and pull your work tight. So now that we've added all the beads that we need to add in this beaded earring, what we're going to do is start reinforcing. So what I like to do to reinforce is just basically mimic all of the thread passes that I've made so far. So you can turn the earring around if you want to work from the back to make it a little bit easier. But essentially what we're just doing is going through everything twice. So it strengthens it and makes it a little bit more even, and it makes the beadwork a little stiffer and less flimsy. You want to make sure that you are going to go through the top to kind of even out those seed beads, and also make sure you're going through the crystals. The crystals are sharp and they'll be probably most likely to break the thread if it's going to break. So once you've reinforced to your satisfaction, you can tie a knot. So if your threads are together, you can tie a square knot like what I'm doing here, or a surgeon's knot. Or if your threads aren't together, just tie them wherever they are using a half hitch knot. Just make sure your knots are secure, and when in doubt, tie another one. You don't want all of this work to go to waste. So after you're happy with your knot, use a flush cutter and just trim flush to the knot. So now we'll be working on the findings parts of our earrings. So I'm going to be taking 2 of our large round jump rings and opening them sideways, not long ways. And you're going to place those rings through the top corner of the first and last square that we made. So using your chain nose pliers, you'll just open and close the jump ring and place it right in that top square. You're going to do the same thing for the other side, so open another large round jump ring, and you might find it easier to actually take the jump ring in from the back. On one of the top corners, it's a little bit tight, so it's a little bit easier to find from the back side. So make sure you close these jump rings smooth and flush. Now we're going to be taking a small oval jump ring and opening it, and we're going to place it into one of the cuts of chain and into the jump ring that we just placed on, and we're going to close it. The reason why we actually use another jump ring in order to attach the chain is because we don't want those drops to hang in front of our beadwork, so it just lifts it up a little bit. Also, separate the drops on the chain so that your jump ring is right in between them, and that just creates a little bit more of an even look that's less bulky. So close that second jump ring onto the first jump ring to attach the chain. So now we're going to be taking a medium round jump ring and opening it. When we cut the drop chain, we get these cute little dangles from the waisted link, so we're going to string one of those on to make it look a little bit more full. Then string your 2 top chain links on, another cute little drop dangle, and then you're going to string your earring finding onto the jump ring. So after we have all the parts and pieces on, we're going to take the other chain nose pliers in and grab the side of the jump ring and close it. So repeat these steps one more time, and then you'll have a finished pair of earrings. So, are you a new bead weaver? Let us know in the comments below if you've ever tried bead weaving before. And if you have, what's your favorite stitch? I think mine's probably right angle weave, but I also really like Russian spiral. Thank you so much for joining us today to make this funky pair of dagger earrings. If you enjoyed watching this video, please give it a big thumbs up. It really helps our channel out. If you have any questions or just want to say hey, drop them in the comments below. Like us on Facebook. The links will be down below. All the materials we used today were from beadplace.net and are also linked down below. If you really liked watching this video and you'd like to see more, make sure to subscribe, and thanks for watching.